Talk with Victory. I'm Leisha Lee, and today's topic is challenges with children over 17. Now, ladies, you know when we all turned 17, of course, at different times, but we were all 17 once. And once we got of age, we had that attitude like, yeah, I got to the age, I'm at that point, I'm grown, I can do what I want to do to a certain extent. My first question, how do you handle situations, or how do you handle children over 18 or over 17 or 18 who keep making bad life decisions?
So 17 is different from 18. 17, you, even though it seems like it's really close, 17, you're still under my domain, I guess, if that's the right word. You're still under my care, so you are supposed to listen to me by law, because if whatever you do, they're gonna blame me. But when you're 18, that's a different situation. The only thing that you can do if your child is 18, whether it's a boy or a girl, you just have to pray that they keep whatever you taught them all of these years, because every time they make a bad decision, all you're going to do is keep telling them, why do you keep doing that? This is what you can do, this is what you can't do, this is what you should or should not do, and they're either going to listen or they're not. So why stress yourself out and knowing that they're going to keep doing it? Between the ages, I personally believe between the ages of 18 and 23, you can make all the foolish decisions that you want to make.
Oh, what?
Because after you're 23, really after you're 25, but I say between 18 and 23, you make a whole bunch of foolish decisions. And that's the time where you have that space to make them, in my opinion. Because when you get 25, you're really, really accountable. That's like real adult, like grown-up life, and you can't just keep doing dumb stuff. But between 18 and 23, I kind of expect you to make foolish decisions, because at 18 you're like, I'm grown, so you feel like I can go out there and I can experience life and do these things, and whatever the cost is, I'm really not worried about it too much. Because at 18 you kind of still feel like my parents, my mother, my father, they really going, help me out, help me get out of it. Some of us, because I'm not. But if you keep doing the wrong thing, then that's on you. That's just for me.
Okay. Any other parents?
Keep them in prayer, but keep talking to them. You might want to change how you talk to them. When they're younger, it's more da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then as they get older, it's reminding them, because you want them to come back to you for advice. So maybe the delivery might change a little bit as they get older, but just still keep talking, and most definitely your prayer life as they get older. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I agree. I think you should definitely just keep talking. That's your response. Well, I feel as though as a parent, that's my responsibility, to just keep talking. I know a lot of times, parents may get frustrated, but I think that I wouldn't be a mother, or I wouldn't be as loving if I didn't tell you where you're wrong. No, when you're a certain age, you have the choice to either listen or don't listen, but it's not going to be on my plate to say, I saw you doing wrong and I didn't tell you, which point out you're wrong and try to guide you the right way. So I think just keep talking, praying,
Well, prayer is definitely number one. However, my wisdom would be, because I tell you something, you go make bad decisions. Then depending on the consequences, then I have to pay the penalty. You get in legal trouble, I have to get the lawyer. Your money ain't long enough for what you do, right? So you get in trouble, I have to do my prayer and supplication to Christ. Lord, if you don't do it for them, do it for me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. So now I'm fasting and praying and in distress. So I'm just saying, it looks like I'm paying the penalty and the consequences for the mistakes you're making. So depending on what it is, I'm not going to keep repeating myself, because you can hear. You don't wear hearing aids, you don't have a hearing impediment, none of that.
Right.
So you heard me the first time, right? Just as I did with my parents, you understand? So I think it has to be some type of consequence to say, okay, or when you make that bad decision, because that's the only way they're going to learn a lesson, right? I know somebody here once said experience is the best teacher for a fool, and I believe that. Like, why, if somebody telling you something, why do you need to experience it yourself? But I'm sure we all have done it before, right? But there were also some consequences to the experience that I took, right? That I wanted to take my own initiative. No, I'm gonna do it myself because I'm grown. I'm this and I'm that. And technically, for me, at 18, you're not really grown. Now, if you got your own spot, your own car, you paying your own bills, your own cell phone, but you living life, you doing it up. But adult, you don't live here. I don't care if you're 45. You can't be adult living here, because I pay bills. I mean, and you know, oh, I pay. That don't. My name is on the mortgage. This is my house. That's how this goes. You don't get to run this. 'Cause
Right.
what happens is I have other children, and you're not gonna create your own type of energy up in here. That don't work for me. You know what I'm saying? Because people.
Do you think that sets the tone for the younger children, how you deal with the older ones?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Kim and I was just having a conversation. They say stuff like, oh, well, you let so-and-so do it. So-and-so don't take out the trash. So-and-so don't do this. So-and-so don't do that. You know, and this is the thing. Rightfully so. So-and-so probably do not. So therefore, I'm not going to allow so-and-so, because I don't want you to be able to say, I didn't give so-and-so the same discipline. So-and-so didn't get the same treatment, you know. And every child is different, so you don't necessarily train them the same. But at the end of the day, if the 12-year-old got to take out the garbage, the 23-year-old need to be taking out the garbage too. It's just that simple. You don't get extra privileges because you're older. You're still not an adult. You still live here.
But like you said, every child is different, and so that's where the issue comes in. See, I don't do that. Well, you don't make this person do that. You different people, different strokes with different folks. Because where, like, my 5-year-old is off the hook, so yeah, she's a total different child than my 19-year-old, and that's how far they are spaced. But like, raising my 19-year-old, she was a total calm child, you know, mild. But this one here is different. So I can't treat her the same way that I treated you, even though you have the same mother, you live in the same house, you are different children. So everything that I do with you, now it's going to still have the same rules and structure, like you said.
That's
this
what
is
I'm
my
saying.
house.
Right, so it's not a favoritism.
Right,
Like,
it's not a
oh,
favoritism. You're a
yeah.
different child, so you require different things. And so if you're 18 or 22, and my goddaughter used to live with me, and I used to be like, wait a minute, I don't have to do that, you grown. She said, no, I'm not grown until I got my own.
Exactly.
And I said,
exactly. That was our
okay,
rule
there you
growing
go.
up.
Yeah.
You're not grown. That was my mom saying, you are not grown until you turn your key in your own door, because then you are paying not only just your bills, but you're paying the consequences. As long as you, if you are with me and I have to bear any of the brunt of those poor decisions you make, you still responsible.
But as the
You're
parent,
still a
you have to
minor.
be willing to accept what comes with that. Like, we'll say, you're not grown till you get your own place, you under my house, you got to follow my rules. And then they turn of age, they get their own place, they get their own ride, and they gone, and you like, well, you don't need no advice, you don't call me. So, you know,
Oh, no.
you got to balance
Then
that.
I'm glad you got your own.
that's a success. I don't think that parents want you don't want your kid to have to return, like come back to live with you again. You always have to bail them out. They're in their
life
mid to
happens
late.
sometime.
Life does
Yeah.
happen, but ideally, you would have equipped them to manage work, bills, relationships, all, so that once they go, they're gone. That's the goal.
That's the end goal, right? Because as a parent, father or mother, I feel like you didn't do a good job. Like, if they have to keep coming back and you have to check what you instilled into them. You know, like, of course, they're gonna make some of their own decisions, but the bottom line is, I have to look at my children and say, okay, what part of that I had something to do with? You know what I'm saying? They spoiled, they entitled, they, you know, if it's disrespect, if it's, you know, and, you know, whatever it is, whatever the attributes are that aren't sitting too well, I have to see what part that I contribute to that they're not able to maintain on their own. You know, when people say, oh, my mother died and so-and-so happened to me and so-and-so happened to me, you know, okay, because your mother passed, you still should be able to make it. Didn't she give you enough tools? Didn't she give you enough information? She gave you enough wisdom, enough resources? I'm just saying, for the mother that did, for the parent that did, and now you
Everybody's
can't make
situation is
it.
different.
You know, I'm just saying, so those that did equip you, so they thought, and now you can't make it, something wrong with that picture.
I truly believe that as parents, it's our responsibility to build that foundation for the child. So, like with my 12-year-old, she's not of age to say that I'm grown, I can make my own decisions, but I still have conversations with her, and I talk to her about different situations, basically that as a grown-up, as she mature and matriculate, that she's gonna have to face. So even in school, some of the things that they are presented with, some of the conversations, some of the social things that the children are sharing amongst one another now, you have to have these conversations in your household. So we had to have a conversation about some of the things that were being shared at school. And one of the things that she asked, we said, well, Mom, how do you not become a hypocrite? Because if we believe one thing, but we have either a family member or a friend or someone that believes in and practices some of these things, how do we treat them? So it's about having those difficult conversations with our children so that they know it may not be something that we uphold as a standard in our household, and you may see it out in public, but this is how you negotiate with that, or this is how you live amongst it and not be apart. So I truly believe that if you start at a young age having those conversations, as they grow up and they become 18 and above, then they'll really think about, well, Mom and Dad, they talk to me about these things. Now I can make better decisions. I think when they are lacking that information or lacking that ability to talk through things, that's when they go out and experiment and try anything just to say, okay, well, nobody told me, so hey, my buddy's doing it, so I'm going to try it, you see. So, I haven't thankfully gotten to that point yet of someone saying, right, saying, I'm grown, I'm a dude, because in my household, it don't work like that.
It's all about the training.
It's about the training.
And you have to start young with the training, and you have to stick to the training. Because I'm just saying, for me, I have 4 children, and you know what my thing was? I ain't gonna do my kids like my mother did.
Right.
That was the worst thing I could have ever done.
Oh no, I am my mother.
I ain't gonna do my kids like my mother did me. And I'm just saying, some of the challenges that I'm facing, I should have been doing my kids like my mother did me.
I am my mother. I literally have turned into my mother, and I didn't realize it until my sister said it. She was just like, you just like Mama. Let the girl do this. Let the girl do that. Mama used to make us do this, and I used to be like, but guess what? She's not going she's not going to go that far if I do like Mama did us. So I'm not that person who said. Now some of the stuff that my mother did was a bit much, so I don't do that. But it's just like the standards that she set. It's just like. You can't stray away from those, because like you said, you think back and then your kids are off the hook, and then you're like, well, I wasn't, because my mother did this, so I should have. But to circle back to what you were saying, when you if a child is 18 and they keep making bad decisions, I think like Nitra said, I think that it needs to change from telling them what to do to having conversations. Your communication changes. That's what it's really all about. And for me, if I keep on telling you, because like Saffron said, you're not deaf. You do not have a hearing disorder. You heard me the first and the second time that I said it. For me, I'm quiet, which makes them come to me instead. Because after I done told you 6 times and you still keep doing it, like if I tell you working and you get your check and then in 2 hours you don't have no more money, and every single time that you get your check this happens, I'm gonna be silent. Because I'm not going to keep telling you the same thing. So then you will come to me, and then we will have a conversation, because you realize that my decisions aren't wise.
Okay, now speaking of checks, go ahead, Kim. Before I'm gonna let you go ahead and say what you're gonna say.
So several people was talking about foundation, and I definitely believe that you have to set that foundation. In the cases of when some children are behaving, sometimes as parents we do have to look at ourselves. But then I also feel like sometimes you just have rebellious kids. Absolutely. You can set that foundation. You can talk to them till you blue in the face. You can do all the right things, but then you just got some kids that just don't want to listen. Yeah, and I think that causes a frustration, because it's like you took them out certain environments. You talk to them about certain things. You have these conversations, and it's like it just creates a frustration for parents or guardians, because it's just like, okay, now I'm looking at my child playing with fire, and I know she's bound to get hurt or he's bound to get hurt, and it's like I didn't teach him that.
Well, because the nurturing in us wants to protect them. Sometimes they need to be hurt. Like you need to go do that bit. You do them 5 years.
They working on their testimony.
You do them 5 years, and I'll catch you on the back end.
I heard that.
Sometimes they have get the consequences because we started trying to shield them and protect them when it's not good, because now they have this entitlement, like I can do what I want to do, you know, and I can go home and, you know, my parents pay all my bills and all this kind of stuff. No.
But see, my question is then what's the root? So
It's a
you see
root
this
to it.
right. So if you have this child with all of this good foundation and being pulled out of the wrong environment so they don't have those influences, but you still are getting a rebellion out of that child, it's something else. It's not the
It don't
external.
always have to be you.
Right, and it don't have, it can be.
for
It could be some errant thought. It can be
Yes.
one experience. It could
Yeah.
be something they've seen somebody else do, and then
And
they
a
decide
child
to bring
has
that.
two parents. A
That
child
too.
has two parents. That's where I always go. Not to blame the other parent, but the child has two parents. And so that means that there are two generations behind this kid that you might not know everything about. And so it's about finding the root, like you said. Because we think, okay, I don't drink. So why is my child out here smoking and drinking? But did the granddaddy drink?
And the grandma.
Did the grandmama smoke?
Lucy.
Or be exposed to it, because
Exactly.
I mean,
but you take them out of the
can see-
exposure, like
I've
you said.
seen
You took
sober
them out of the
parents.
exposure, and they still do stuff. There's a root. There are things called generation curses that we don't like to talk about. We don't like to even think about it because it's just like, I know I did this, I know I did that. It's not about you. It's about what's happening under the root, what's happening behind the scenes. Something might not be right in here that you
Right.
have to think about. You know, you have to go back to those generations. Was my grandmama crazy? Was my
see,
granddaddy a little off?
I think even in practical senses where you've seen sober parents or sober generations, and then you still show up, you know, the child down the line has an issue. Let's just leave it at rebellion. It's something that's not conforming. It may not be anything external. It may be that child is the anomaly. It may be that something in their wiring is not right. It may be something that in precautions and things that you've done, they've been exposed to without your knowledge. You got to root all of that out. I'm not saying that it has to be this, yes, we are spiritual, but it doesn't have to be so spiritual. We got to be practical in some senses and find out where
And
that
that have anything to do with you. That's the thing. Because we're spiritual, we have to remember that, you know, life happens. And so it doesn't always have to be about, okay, a generation of this and that and the other. They've been exposed to the world.
Yeah.
And the world is way different than what it was when we grew up.
Yeah.
And so there are things that occur, there's nothing new under the sun, but there are things that we didn't always know that was going on under the
Right.
sun. And so they've been exposed to a lot more. The enemy has raised his head in a total different way in 2020, 2021,
bold.
2019, whatever the case may be. And so Satan is stomping on these grounds, and our children think that it's rainbows and sprinkles. It's, you know, if it looks bad, I want it. And we know that feeling, but what we wanted that was bad wasn't as bad as what it is today. And so you have to get over the criticism of, I need to take my child to a therapist. I need to take my child and see if they need some medication, because there are some things that don't have anything to do with you because they've been exposed to this, that, and the other, and there may be some chemical imbalance that is going on that they need to get some help with.
Now, what do you do when your child is exposed to different things, and let's say it's drugs or alcohol, and they have that addiction or any other type of addiction that something they've been exposed to, and they attach themselves to it, and they're now it's like kind of overtaking them, and they're in your house? How do you handle that?
Well, you get them the help that they need.
Get them
whether
help
it's
and take them
rehabilitation, psychological,
Take them to a rehab. If they're a child,
Right.
yeah.
if
So
they're
if they're a
17,
child,
18,
You can
you
commit
in
them.
control.
you can, exactly.
Now,
Anything
You
under
can't just
21,
commit somebody.
You may not be able to commit them.
maybe commit is not the right word, but you
Yeah,
can
you
start-
can take them
yes,
to a
they child.
rehabilitation center. You can take them to get the help that they need. If they do not want to get that help, then sometimes you really have to use tough love. And we don't want to think about that because people are like, don't throw your child away. You're not throwing them away, but guess what? You're not going to throw me away either.
Exactly.
You're not going to throw my household away because I have to make sure that I am mentally stable to handle whatever is going to come of your situation. And so you have to just get them the help that they need, whether it's therapy, whether it's a rehab center, whether it's keeping them away. If you got to keep them in the house, whatever you
And what works for you.
and what works for your house. Exactly. Because everything doesn't work for everybody. Somebody might be strung out on crack or alcohol or smoking too much weed or whatever the case may be, and just, you know, keeping them in the house away from things for 30 days might be okay because they might need to be away from something for a little while. That might work for you, but somebody else may need to go be in a rehabilitation center for 90 days.
And we have to keep in mind also, because when a child is 18, the medical field considers them as an adult.
14.
Really, pretty much. And so when you're talking about a child, if they have challenges mentally, then you as a parent can no longer say, make them take their medicine. They have to see the value in it to benefit themselves and want to take it. You know, too many parents are faced with that right now, and the child may be acting up in school or just acting up out in the streets, and the parents like, well, I don't know what to do. My child needs this, but they're not taking it. And the first thing that the professionals will say, well, you can't make the child do this. They have to want to do it. So again, it goes back to having those conversations with the child, or the stand that, look, we're not doing this because we want to imprison you, or we're not doing this because we want to control you. These are the things that's going to benefit you to be able to sustain and maintain yourself as an adult on your own. And when you don't do this, these are the consequences, these things that you are falling short in. And that's the best that you can do. Like, it's not like in the times when some of us had our parents, you know, what I say you do, and they put the fear of God in us, and we did it. But that don't work with these children.
It doesn't.
It doesn't work.
That's what I was going to ask. Nitya, you said you can't commit, like similar to what she's saying, you can't commit them. So what? So help me understand.
No, you can't.
As a okay, no, you the professional. But help me understand. So like we talked before about how Mama did it this way. We found out like we should have actually been doing it the way that Mama said. Back then, they had these receiving homes. Remember? I don't know if y'all know about those here from DC. those. And you know, it's like, here you go. This one won't cooperate. There was so many different.
It was like it's a
It's respite care and stuff like that.
But you're saying you can't commit them.
You can't commit them. First of all, I got the rudest awakening. I took my oldest daughter to a doctor's appointment when she was 14, and they said, can you step out of the room? I said, for what?
At 13,
What do
they
you
asked
mean?
you step out.
I said, step out. For what? What you need to ask her, and what you need to be in here with her by yourself for? That because they need to ask them questions, and the questions are they trying to figure out what's going on at home in case we need to help you. Wow. So I didn't get that. My immediate response was, who do you think you are, and what are you going to do to my child behind this door that I can't see, that I might be balling you up afterwards?
Right, karate mom.
You know, I just wasn't thinking, but then after, you know, I calmed down, I was like, okay, this is what it is, but it's the law.
Right. And then for those households where there is something that a child needs to,
you know, it wasn't for me.
Right.
I didn't, you know, I'm not abusing my kid, but what if somebody is?
Yeah. Right.
That's the time for the kid to be able to say something. Right. Or them to see that the kid won't say nothing.
Right.
And then mental health is, I'm sorry.
No, go.
And mental health is actually 12.
Okay.
Wow.
12. And it's to get them to be able to talk freely without the parents around, because there's some things they'll say in front of you, in front of a total stranger, they'll just blurt it all out. You know, and it's a struggle because you as the parent, you want to help, but you have to, you can't tell the child's business. So it's like a catch-22. Whatever they say and secretive to you, it stays in that room, regardless of who they are. So you can just encourage them to have conversations with their family and everything. You can try to do family visits, and then during the family visit, encourage them to bring it up. But unless they're going to be a harm to their self or someone else, you cannot say anything. And it's nothing personal.
And that's fine. The law, what the Bible says about the law, everything is lawful. So that's fine. But what I can't control is my house. Right. You 12 in my house and 14 in my house.
Right.
We gonna see what it look like outside, because that's what we not gonna do. Okay, because I didn't have that experience before. You know what the law say? Oh, you can't do this and you can't do that, and you know they sending the social workers to your house and all that kind of stuff. Don't take them. Get it back. Get it back. Get it back. Get it back. No, ma'am. No, that's not what we want. Oh no, that's exactly what you want.
Right.
Exactly.
Because I ain't got no conversation for you. It don't work here. So you go ahead, because at the end of the day, if they saying at 12 and 14 they're adults and they think they have the mentality to make conscious decisions as adults, make them.
Now, do you think that because the law is saying this, that they're understanding that they're not even at a maturity level to make those decisions?
Well, because this liberated world we live in, you know, just do what you want, when you want, how you want, what you want. Because this is the thing, it's just not for children. Even though we talking about the youth and the young adults, the grown people need something too.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But you don't have a lot for them. But you're giving the kids a lot of rights and a lot of freedom and a lot of.
I think
And this
that
is
what
the
they're
thing,
trying to do is ward it off.
that have parents. So why do they have parents if they can make all these great decisions by themselves?
Right. I think what's happening is they're seeing the adults that are dysfunctional. And so
Right.
they think that if
They're
we catch it, if we catch it at an early age, then perhaps we can change the narrative of this becoming the future again.
Right, and so you protecting the child, but we all been watching the news the last couple of days. How much protecting is you really doing?
It's
Like,
selective
come on.
protection.
Right.
You know,
and
come
and,
on.
and to speak on what you're saying, Saffron, a lot of it is people dropping the ball and things are falling, you know, in between the cracks. Like some of the instances of the youth that were found, you know, and they were deceased. Unfortunately, the family was pushing, trying to get that attention, to say, hey, these children need help, but someone dropped the ball. You know, so what we have to do as a society is keep speaking up and making sure that when it's reported that you follow through. You can't just go and say, okay, I want to file a report, this is happening to this child, and then you don't go back another 5-6 months, because that's more time for something to transpire and happen to that child. You have to, if it means you got to be up there every day, every week, until something changes to make sure that that child is getting the help that they need. So I totally agree
Right, and
with
this
you
is
with
the thing.
that.
You think like Neutris was just saying, you know, with the mental health and all that type of stuff, what happened? What happened? Clearly that was a situation.
Right.
Like, what happened?
Because there was,
You know,
in this
but
particular
because I
situation,
can't
something
make
happened
you,
before.
Right.
but because I can't make you and I can't force you, then this is the consequences.
For me, I think we need to make sure, we need to go back to everybody, like you said, speaking up. We have to be the village. Everybody keeps talking about the village, but then the village want to mind their business on certain things.
Because certain parents in the village tell them, you know,
And
other,
that's
other
fine,
villages to
but
mind
no,
their
you
business.
don't. I don't mean.
So like you can't have it both ways.
No,
You
no,
can't
no.
have the
What I'm
village
saying
be watchful,
is-
be mindful. Stop your kid from running in the street. Stop your kid from doing that.
No.
And then
I get that.
certain villages, at the certain parents in the village, like, oh no, don't touch my Timmy.
Oh, yeah.
Timmy
So true.
is a-
Well,
So
I'm
you
one of
deal with
those
the
parents-
ones that want to help.
Timmy
That's
is
the
a-
I've
thing.
always been the one to help.
No, I'm one of those parents who's don't
is
touch my
on
kids because I don't know.
Not
what you
touch,
do. Yeah,
not-
don't
but I'm
touch
saying,
my
like,
child. But
if the
I
kid
want
is
you to tell
in
them,
the
you know, or if you see them doing something wrong, tell me. But every parent is not like that.
That's what I'm
Because
saying.
first of all, these parents and their children are the same age. That's first things first. Because they mentally they're the same age and they had kids at the same age. So no, so they don't listen to nothing. They out here. That what I'm saying is. What
club
we
with
need
the
to do as a village, as a community, is stop minding our business so much. You don't have to tell a child, but you go and you tell somebody, and then you have to make the somebody be accountable. Stop going to social service and then leaving it at that. Y'all don't do nothing, then I need to talk to your superior, because if these children end up or this person ends up harming themselves or being harmed, it's on you, because I'm documenting every time that I tell you that I heard this. The man said, I heard him screaming. And you ain't do nothing?
Right.
You ain't call the police? You hear children screaming?
Right.
I understand that you want to mind your business, but the children are your business, because if they're
Some
not
people
being cared for.
can't. Some people are mandated reporters, and you
Right.
better say something,
have to.
or that's your license getting snatched.
Absolutely.
Well, ladies, unfortunately, we do have to come to an end right now for this show. This was a great topic to touch on, to talk about. And for those who are over 18, who are watching, if you do feel like you need help, you're struggling with anything, reach out, have a conversation with your parents. If you don't feel comfortable talking to your parents, reach out to someone that you can trust that will get you that help. If you are a parent struggling or dealing with a child who's struggling with an addiction or struggling with certain situations, find somebody. If you can't help them, reach out. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Find someone to help. That's Ministries for allowing us to be a part of the vision. And until next time, bye-bye.